What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here. Bring another episode of our Dynasty Decision Series we do over here at the Fantasy Stock Exchange YouTube channel. And yeah, we're ready to go. We're ready to bring this out on the Sunday as always. We know you guys got them notifications on for a reason, and we're ready to help you guys win in your Dynasty leagues. But before we do that, as always, Corey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You guys know the drill by now. If you guys
course.
want to be a part of future Dynasty Decisions episodes, you can get in contact with us in a couple of ways. Our patrons get first priority for Dynasty Decisions. So you can join us over there, patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange. You can also contact us on Twitter. Our Twitters are on the screen right now. Give us a follow over there, or on Discord. Our Discord is linked in the description as well. This is episode 36 of Dynasty Decisions. If you guys enjoyed this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Now let's hit the intro.
All right, so let's start off with the first team of the video. And Corey, I'll let you take it away here with Robert's team.
Yeah, so this is a patron of ours, Robert, 12-team Superflex tight end premium. You guys can see the roster there: Lamar Jackson, Jameis Winston, et cetera, at quarterback, Joe Mixon, Elijah Mitchell, et cetera, at running back, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, et cetera, at wide receiver, Dallas Goedert, and Cole Kmet at tight end. And then he's got the 109 this year. He's got 2 firsts in 2023, a first rounder in 2024, and the rest is there for you guys to see. So he basically just says, would love your thoughts on what to do with this roster to help add some running back depth. He has 2 potential top picks in the 2023 draft in the first round and would love to hold on to them if possible. So he wants to add running back depth to his team, but does not want to sacrifice those 2023 first rounders. Obviously, that could be a big time source of running back depth for your team, especially if those first ends up being high as well.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, it's clear here that this is a very well-constructed team for the most part. I mean, your clear strength is in that wide receiver core. I mean, having Jefferson, Lamb, Waddle, Moore, Jeudy, like that is a phenomenal construction there. Obviously, at running back, you're not deep to say the least, but at least you have a couple guys at the top that can kind of carry the load for you. And then obviously at quarterback, you got a cheat code and Lamar Jackson. Quarterback 2 is a bit of a question mark, but I think you agree with me with the fact that if Jameis Winston is the starter with the New Orleans Saints this year, he should be a fringe top 18 to 20 type of quarterback, which is all you really need with this team.
Yeah, a solid quarterback 2 would go a long way because
For sure.
I think you have a lot of, you have 3 quarterback 3s, I would say, on your team with Jameis Winston, Daniel Jones, and Baker Mayfield, and they can kind of pseudo make up a quarterback 2 for you in, like a 1 season type of thing. But that 109 pick for me is kind of earmarked towards my quarterback 2, if possible, because most likely you're not going to get, Kenneth Walker, Bryce Hall at running back. And if Isaiah Spiller gets good draft capital, I do honestly expect him to be off the board by 109. But if he's there, of course, he would help add some running back depth to your team. But that quarterback position, if Matt Corral or Sam Howell is on the board for you at 109, is probably where I'm looking, given the current value of how we value those players. Of course, we dropped the Superflex mock draft yesterday that you guys can go check out as well. He also says currently trying to move Jerry Jeudy for the 105 range of picks with the hopes of landing Kenneth Walker potentially to replace and replenish some of his running back core. If you could pull off a trade like that, I think I could speak for both of us when I say that Jerry Jeudy to me is where do you value Jerry Jeudy as far as a rookie pick in a Superflex?
I would say for me personally, it's a tough conversation. Obviously, we have to see draft capital and landing spot, but I do think that Jerry Jeudy would find himself in that Olave, Jameson Williams, Jahan Dawson type of area, which obviously, again, in terms of inherent value, is less than the 105. So if you could pull off that type of move, I would be more than happy with it. And I mean, who knows? I mean, with Kenneth Walker, I know a lot of film guys really like him from an actual running standpoint. He should be getting high draft capital. The only real issue, obviously, with him is the potential limited upside given the receiving game. But I mean, at the end of the day here in the mid-first round, I think it's appropriate for him.
Yeah, the only question I really have, I have no problems taking Kenneth Walker at the 105, but if you're in a more casual league that overvalues running backs, you might not get Kenneth Walker with that 105. He might go before your pick. And I mean, at that point, if you're trading out Jerry Jeudy for Drake London or for Garrett Wilson, is definitely an upgrade in terms of value. But if you're making this trade solely for the purpose of upgrading at running back, you're probably better off shopping Jerry Jeudy for a running back rather than a rookie pick.
At the end of the day here, take the value when you can get it. I'm not worried about filling out my lineup in April. You have 2 locked and loaded RB slots there with Mixon and Mitchell. Obviously, you don't have much after that, but I mean, at the end of the day here, like going into the season, you can always load up on depth, like your JD McKissick archetypes. Maybe this whoever emerges as this year's James Conner, you can get for a rookie second in the future. Like you have opportunity here. Obviously, you don't have a rookie second, but I mean, you could makeshift a package to be able to get that done. If you get into the season, you realize you need RB depth, that's the time to actually add it. Right now, it just kind of seems redundant because you don't know what's going to unfold ahead of you, and you don't need to fill out a lineup until then. You're just adding unnecessary risk.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can pull off that trade 105 for Jerry Jeudy, whether it's Walker, whether it's a receiver prospect, I do like the value for Jerry Jeudy, who I kind of value around that 108, 109 range of a rookie draft. So any other insights, anything else that you would do with this team, or should we move on to the next?
I mean, no. The only thing, obviously, I'll say, I mean, this is a mandatory thing from us, is that if you can transition, mix it into, Dobbins plus, Gibson plus, maybe that'll help you, recoup some draft capital and be able to add depth in that way. That's what I'd be looking to do. But I mean, at the end of the day here, it's what you're comfortable with. And although we would do it in a heartbeat, I mean, if you're trying to win with the squad, I don't hate it if you were to just keep the team as is.
Yep. Yeah, I don't disagree there. Obviously, that 2023 draft capital will help you replenish that running back core, even if you do suffer a bit of a setback type of year this year. And then if you have your own pick too, I'm sure you'll lower your own pick with that type of season. So let's move on to JD's trades. Actually, he's another patron of ours. 12-team Superflex PPR 6-point per passing touchdown league. So quarterbacks obviously have a big time value in this league. His roster was, I'm not going to show his beforehand roster. I'll show what it is now. His roster was Mahomes, Watson, Carr at quarterback, Swift, Hunt, Gainwell, etc. at running back, Kupp, Hopkins, Lockett, Juju, Tyler Boyd, and Jefferson, etc. at wide receiver. And then he had Travis Kelce as his most notable tight end with some other, decent depth pieces. He made 2 trades here. Let's kind of dive into these. I really love this first one. He wanted to get younger at wide receiver. So that was the purpose of both of these trades. Basically, he traded away DeAndre Hopkins, Kenneth Gainwell, and the 204 in exchange for DJ Moore in the 306. So overall, looking at this trade, for me, easily, I'd rather have the 306 than Kenneth Gainwell. So those two assets just kind of cancel each other out. DeAndre Hopkins in the 204. The 204 is a solid pick. You'll probably get a decent receiver prospect there, maybe a upside swing at running back or something. But I think I'd rather have DJ Moore personally.
I 100% would rather have DJ Moore. This is I would probably need at least DeAndre Hopkins and a first to move off of DJ Moore. So the fact that you're able to acquire DJ Moore, again, you mentioned Gainwell for 306, relatively a wash. Hopkins in the 204 versus DJ Moore is not really that close. I would take DJ Moore in a landslide there. Moving off of this trade though, because I mean, we're in pretty good agreement here that we prefer the DJ Moore side. This next trade is very interesting. I'll let you kind of break it down how you value it, but what are your thoughts on this Hollywood / Derek Carr type of deal here?
Yeah, so in this trade, he moved off of Derek Carr, and he said, I was tear downing from Derek Carr, which I think is, a good time to do that.
Smart.
If people in your league are viewing Derek Carr as like a locked and loaded top 15 dynasty quarterback, now that he has Devontae Adams, it could be a good time to try and tear down from him. So he tears down from Derek Carr to Matt Ryan. Obviously, you get a little bit older there, which is not ideal, but you get a lot younger at wide receiver, going from Tyler Lockett to Hollywood Brown, a guy that, Hollywood Brown, I'd just rather have straight up this year
way better
than Tyler Lockett,
yeah.
And he's a lot younger, and there's more promise and more upside with him. And then the 2023 first for the 104. In a vacuum, we don't know where that first is going to be, but it is his first. So if this team is competitive, then it should be, mid to late. At least it won't be early looking at his roster. So if you can trade a mid first right now, or, the 108 next year or something like that for the 104 this year, are you looking to do something like that? Or you believe that next year's class is so good that the 108, 109 is going to be as good as the 104 this year?
It's fully dependent on roster construction. It's fully dependent on how your draft picks, how your draft capital is correlated. Again, if I have a ton of picks this year and I want to, take a stab and get a pick next year, yeah, I'll do that. And vice versa. If I have a ton of 2023 draft picks and I want to, move one of them for a Drake London, Treylon Burks type, I would also be fine with that. So I do think that that's probably around relative appropriate value. The 104, 105 this year is probably a mid to late first next year. And obviously an early first next year is like a gold mine, like a top 2 type of pick type of this year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the way I break this trade down is that the 2 first pieces, Hollywood and Matt Ryan for Derek Carr and Tyler Lockett, are probably about even. Maybe you want to add in the bottom part of the trade, which I haven't even talked about yet, which is he went from his 109 to the 106. So he moved up 3 spots in this year's class, which it could be a big difference, right? That could be the difference between Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, Jamison Williams versus Drake London, Kenneth Walker, somebody in that realm of tier, which I think is a bigger upgrade than a 3-pick swap would suggest. So I do think that overall, when I look at this trade, it's relatively even for both sides, but I do slightly like your side of it.
Yep, no, fully agree there. So overall, is this his team listed here now?
Yeah, so this is what his
Okay.
team looks like now. You guys should have been able to see this on the screen. He
Oh,
took our advice from the first episode because we told him to get younger at wide receiver, and that's basically what he did with those 2 trades. He's still going to go for it to try and win this year because he doesn't have his first round pick, so he might as well. And he's hoping that he can add a running back in the draft, likely Kenneth Walker with one of those first 2 picks because he has the 103, the 104, and the 106. So he should be able to get Kenneth Walker. I doubt Breece Hall is going to fall to there, but that would be, a home run type of pick there. Or if, Kenneth Walker is gone, he goes 102 or something like that. Maybe if Isaiah Spiller gets great draft capital, you consider taking him with that 106. But I think either way, you're going to be in a good position to add more youth to your wide receiving core. He also said, I know it's taboo to trade your 2023 first because they're like gold mines, but he gains the 104 and an upgrade of his current draft pick 109 to 106. So he did, think it was worthy in that trade. And he also got younger at wide receiver. Like he said his league is obsessed with 2023 first, which makes sense if your league is plugged into the college football and the draft process and stuff. They're going to know that class is expected to be very good. He also talked to the owner of the 101 to see what it would cost to go and get Breece Hall. And the guy who owns the 101 wants his 104 and 106 to move off of it. Personally, I think that's a bit too much.
That's a little steep. Now, if you can somehow, I don't know how you pull
Juju's
it
the
off,
guy that
but
stands out to me. If you
that's
can
what I
do
was gonna say.
104 and
Like,
Juju for the 101,
nobody's
then I'm
taking
willing
that,
to do
though.
that. Or the 103 and Juju for the
I
101,
would do
then I'm
that,
willing to do
yeah.
that because then you upgrade from Kenneth Walker, presumably, to Breece Hall, and all you're giving up is Juju Smith-Schuster in return for that. So if you could pull off something like that, that is what I'd be willing to do, but I'm not willing to give up, 2 top 6 picks to get the
Yeah.
101.
Yep, for sure. So overall, any other thoughts on this team and the draft capital accumulated? Like, do you have any, thoughts about those picks, or do you think we could just kind of move off?
No, I think 103, 104, you take, a guy like Kenneth Walker, take a best
For sure.
available wide receiver with the other, and then 106, again, probably best available wide receiver, or maybe you want to attack Isaiah Spiller and fill out your running back core if he gets a good landing spot as well. Also could go in the direction of quarterback too, if you want to get a young quarterback 3, if they get good draft capital. So let's move on to Anthony's team, another patron of ours. Team is listed on the screen there. Very deep
Yep.
quarterback core, Kyler, Lance, Tua, Zach Wilson, Mariota,
Yeah.
etc. Running backs, Najee and Javonte, but that's pretty much all you need. T. Higgins, Darnell Mooney, Claypool, Rondell, etc. at wide receiver. Tight end, Andrews, Irv, Alberto, etc. 103, 204, 304, 3 2023 firsts, a 2023 second, 2/3, and then no 2024 first, but all of his other picks in that draft. So the first trade that he has here for us to look over is
Stealing.
a trade that he just made. Apparently, he got flamed for this trade. So his league
This
mates are
league is
telling him that
dumb.
he, sold too low or whatever the case is. The trade that he made was he sold Najee Harris, Albert Okwuegbunam, and a 2023 third in exchange for DeAndre Swift and a 2023 first. Now, me and Danny have DeAndre Swift straight up ranked over Najee Harris. Now, if maybe you favor volume, you're a volume is king guy. At the very least, these guys are in the same tier. However you slice it, they're in the same tier, and you're getting a 2023 first essentially for Albert O and a 2023 third. So I'm taking that side of the trade, no doubt about it. The fact that you got flamed for this, and he said mainly it's because the guy he traded this to has a really stacked team, and that's probably why he's getting flamed. But either way, I like the Swift side of this trade.
You're getting at minimum, you're staying in the same tier at running back. We view it as an upgrade, but staying in the same tier at running back. So let's just say the Swift and Najee cancel each other out, even though we would rather have Swift. You gave up Albert Okwuegbunam and a 3rd round pick for a 2023 first. Imagine right now, Corey, you're able to flip Albert Okwuegbunam and a 2023 third for Jordan Addison.
Yeah, he does say this is this guy's first, right? So it's going to be a late first. He's got a very good team. Even if this is the 112, I don't really care.
Dude, easily. I'm more than fine with it. Class next year. We already know
there's 10 players that are very good.
Already we can name off our head. And every single year there's guys that emerge. We know the top 2 quarterbacks for the most part are going to be Stroud and Young. Who knows? What if a 3rd quarterback comes onto the screen? What if a Zach Wilson type develops?
Well, Zach Wilson's replacement's getting some buzz at BYU, and we also have Will Levis from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Kentucky. Getting some buzz as well. There's Michael Mayer too in next year's draft that we didn't even really mention. We could have a Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams type of running back breakout that we weren't expecting coming into the season. there's a lot of possibilities for that, even if that is the 111 or the 112, for that pick to be pretty valuable. And like we said, we're taking Swift over Najee straight up as it currently stands. So potential trade number 2. He hasn't actually accepted this yet, but I'm assuming he's going to. Initially, he was
so
getting the
funny.
106 and Deontay Johnson for Tua and Darnell Mooney. And of course, knowing his quarterback core, like you guys can see it, he doesn't need Tua on his team. He has Kyler Murray, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson, and Marcus Mariota, even without Tua, on his roster. So this is a pretty easy smash for me. I would rather his side, even if he needed Tua as his quarterback. I think the value is on the side of Deontay Johnson in the 104. Deontay Johnson versus Darnell Mooney isn't all that close. Like you would
Not
need
even remotely.
Darnell Mooney and like a mid 2023 first for me to get up to Deontay Johnson.
Bro, I'm just saying it right now. I would rather have Deontay Johnson than maybe Tua and Mooney. Maybe that's a little bit steep, but Tua and Mooney is probably about relatively fair for Deontay Johnson. Maybe I'm just super high on Deontay Johnson, but like I don't understand how you were able to also milk the 104 in this deal. Like, if you had said, the 204, I would have been like, okay, that's probably a relatively fair deal. Mooney for the 204, Tua for Deontay. Let's just say hypothetically. The fact that you got the 104 and Deontay Johnson for Tua and Mooney is an
Yeah, a quarterback
absolute
that you don't
steal.
need too.
Absolute steal. I mean, and looking at the team, you needed this deal. You got your wide receiver 2 behind T. Higgins now, and you got the 104 to be able to add yet another wide receiver in the draft.
Or Kenneth Walker to your running
Kenneth
back
Walker. Like, this is a phenomenal deal. Absolutely love what you're able to do here. And overall, now you're in a very, very good position with this team right now. But he also says rookie draft context, says his league is new to Dynasty rookie draft, so they'll probably draft for need over just best player available. So he says that 101 needs a quarterback and 102 is an Arkansas fan and needs a wide receiver. So he's basically saying like we expect Malik Willis and Treylon Burks to be the first 2 picks. And now that he has 103 and 104,
if you could get Bryce Hall at 103 and add another wide receiver
Drake
at
London,
or hell add Kenneth Walker to your team too, like you're going to be in a very, very good spot. Hopefully that's how the draft shakes out for you, because I mean, that's a great value if you can somehow get Bryce not at the 101 in any kind of situation. He also said that Garrett Wilson is his wide receiver 1. So if, Garrett Wilson is there at 104 after he picks a running back or something, then he'd probably just go with Garrett Wilson. I think if you come out of this draft at 103 and 104 with Garrett Wilson and Bryce Hall, you're going to be laughing all the way to the bank, and you're going to have a very, very well-constructed team at that point as well. So we can move on to the next team. We got Zach, who's also our newest patron, I believe, one of our most recent. Yep. Won last year, second year he came, or second the year before last, and his team's kind of in a rough situation, at least from a long-term perspective. He probably still could run this back and try and win, which is probably what I would do, just because you don't really have a choice. You could take the preemptive, forward-thinking kind of look and see if you could sell these pieces now, or you could try and run this back one more year and blow it up a year from now. So with his team, you guys can see he's a lot of aging assets. Travis Kelce, Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, a lot of guys that are in their prime, Joe Mixon. And could he sell off some of these pieces, recoup some value, and still hold on to guys like Javonte Williams for the long term? Sure. But Javonte Williams is a running back, right? So he's probably going to be in his prime as soon as this season. And if you're going for a full status rebuild, after this year, he might have really, really high value that you can get a huge package for. Doesn't have any draft picks in 2022. Doesn't have his first or his second in 2023. I'd probably just roll the dice and try. You won last year. Try and play with house money this year and see if you can win again.
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of have to at this point. I mean, your team is depreciating. You don't have the draft capital to be able to supplement it. So as a result, I mean, you won last year. You came second the year before. Just kind of see where it takes you, man. Maybe one thing I would say is if you're trying to gear towards a win now type of year, I would gauge your league on their valuation of AJ Dillon. Like if you could flip AJ Dillon into, a Leonard Fournette type, a James Conner type, where somebody's, saying, oh, Dillon's got more long-term potential because of his age and because of the size of Aaron Jones. And you could flip that into 1 year of, Leonard Fournette being a top 10 running back, James Conner being a top 10 running back, one of those type of archetypes to help bolster your team to try to win this year. I would definitely consider that type of move.
Yeah, we're not usually talking about how to make trades like that for win now contenders, but yeah, I agree. I think that's probably something that I would look to do. If you can't get a running back, you could always go for, Michael Thomas with that AJ Dillon asset, or somebody in the wide receiver realm that'll help you win as well. Keenan Allen makes a lot of sense too.
Well, I was just about to say next, you flip Dillon for a running back, let's just say hypothetically, and then you go right over, you say, hey, You guys like Juju? Because I'll just flip you right now. Juju Smith-Schuster for, Keenan Allen type, Michael Thomas type, you freaking name it. And I would take that upside of wide receiver all day over, the landing spot of Juju that everybody wants to hype up.
Yeah, Juju is like the biggest sell high on planet Earth for us right now. So,
Always.
it's pretty straightforward what you need to do here, Zach. I just try and win again. And if you can't, obviously you won last year. You're playing with house money right now. If you got to blow this up next year because you came in third or something like that, then at that point in time, you got a couple years banked away that you can just, rebuild and retool and look for 2024 draft capital and stuff like that. So the final patron of the video, we have Bryce, Superflex League. He just has a couple questions here, nothing insane. But at the quarterback position, he has Ryan Tannehill, Justin Fields, and Baker Mayfield. In his rookie draft, he has the 101, the 105, the 110, and the 201. He's basically asking how should he handle his rookie picks. He doesn't ask specifically, should I take Malik Willis with the 101? But in his situation, are you looking to do that? Or are you still just going to go with the best available player in Bryce Hall, at least in my opinion?
I'm taking BPA, and he mentions, do I try to trade up to secure Malik? If Malik gets first round, like top 20 type of draft capital, like, and you can get him, for the 105 and the 201, let's just say hypothetically, like I would do that in a heartbeat. Personally.
Yeah, he doesn't give us the context of the rest of his team. I don't know if he's in like a winning situation or if he's in contending situation or a rebuilding situation. So we're looking at his team just at face value, what we would do with these picks. He wants Bryce Hall 101, which is fine. Take Bryce Hall. By all means, he's worth that pick. At 105, I'm looking best player available. Likely that is going to be Drake London, Treylon Burks, or Garrett Wilson for me. Maybe you want to go with Kenneth Walker, depending on the makeup of your team, if you're just completely loaded at wide receiver. And then with the 110 and 201, he does ask, should I trade up to secure Malik Willis, or should I just stick and pick at 110 and take Sam Howell or take Matt Corral or take Kenny Pickett if you're a fan of him, or take Desmond Ridder if he sneaks into the first round? Anybody, is it worth going up to 102 to secure the presumed quarterback one in Malik Willis, or should I just take the value at 110 and get a third quarterback that way? Because Tannehill and Fields is enough of a quarterback core for you to win this year with those guys.
Yeah. For me, it's worth it. Like, honestly, like I think Malik Willis at his ceiling, again, if he gets the expected draft capital, talking about top 20, top 15 type of draft capital, he's worth that trade up, in my opinion. I would want him at 102 because I do think that there's a realm of possibility where he has legitimate top 15 type of super flex value when it's all said and done by the end of the year if he shows flashes.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, we sound like a broken record at this point, but if Malik Willis is the only first-round quarterback, then it's worth it to me. But if four of these guys go in the first round, it is not worth it. And I would stick and pick at 110 and take one of the available quarterbacks, assuming that they're there at 110 for me. Because if Matt Corral goes 32nd overall to the Detroit Lions and you can get him at 110 versus, let's say, 20th overall, Malik Willis goes to the Steelers, I would just take Matt Corral at an 8-pick discount, not having to trade up and give up additional value, because it is going to be your quarterback 3, presumably.
I'll say it's one thing you're mentioning. 20th overall for Malik Willis. Now, if Malik Willis goes top 10, there's a completely different story there, because I am taking
if he goes 2 to Detroit and Corral goes 30 to the Falcons, trading back into the first round or something like that, bit of a different story. Top 2 overall draft capital over top 5, top 6. If he goes to Carolina, overall draft capital is a bit of a different story. But that's basically what I would do with those rookie picks. And then at the 201, you're going to get a solid wide receiver prospect with that. Same goes for the 105 as well. Maybe you go with a great, if Sam Howell gets top 20 draft capital in the quarterback class, I think he's worth that 105 pick too, which is also, something that you'd have to keep in mind depending on what happens in the NFL draft. So let's move on to Alex, a Twitter question here. 10 team Superflex, 10-man Dynasty League. You guys can see the team on the screen there. Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, mainly at quarterback. Swift, Gibson, mainly at running back. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the Dolphins pair there. Elijah Moore, Chase Claypool, Robert Woods, etc. Dallas Goedert and Cole Kmet. Very common pairing of tight ends so far in this episode. He also has the 107, his 2023 first, 2024 first, and a couple other draft picks here and there. Let's look at these trades first, and then we'll kind of review the team overall. The first trade, he gets DeAndre Swift in exchange for AJ Dillon in the 204. I mean, that's a woodshed. We need like a drop or something to anytime somebody makes a woodshed trade. I love AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon's a really talented player, but we don't have clarity about his situation. As much as we're out on Aaron Jones as well from a dynasty perspective, we're not trying to like trade for him or anything. He's still there. He's still under contract and he's still going to be utilized. So unless we have an Aaron Jones injury before the season, I still would easily take DeAndre Swift over AJ Dillon in the 204.
Not even remotely close. Like this trade, in order for it to be fair, has to be more so like the 104 at minimum. And
Right.
even
And
at like,
even if AJ Dillon is the starting running back for the Green Bay Packers in 2023 and Aaron Jones is no longer on the roster, we have like a Nick Chubb situation. He's not going to be a guy that catches more than 40 passes, 30 passes in a season. And DeAndre Swift has shown 7 target per game type of output, and his offense is only going
yeah,
up from here. So eventually they're going to add a quarterback. Eventually they're going to add more. Their coaching staff's going to get a little bit better. Their offensive line's already good. DeAndre Swift is set up right now to be at his like basement value, which is already very, very high, of course, because of the type of player that he is. But I'll take DeAndre Swift on that side of the trade. And then this other trade, I'm not a big Devin Singletary guy, but if this is the price that you can
cheap
get him
enough.
for,
Yeah.
I mean, pre-NFL draft, people are going to be scared to trade for him, right? Because they don't know, is Breece Hall going to be the pick for Buffalo at 25 or whatever in the NFL draft, and then Devin Singletary's dead. Devin Singletary for a 2024 third, that's a risk I'm willing to take, because if they don't draft a running back period, or they draft one like in the 6th round or 7th round, Devin Singletary could be in line for like a James Conner type of season, where he's a guy that might get the goal line work for the Buffalo Bills offense. He was pretty valuable down the stretch in the fantasy playoffs and stuff. There's a chance that this guy's an RB2 next year, and a 2024 third is a risk that I'm okay taking for that.
Yeah, like if it was a second, I would say you sell him for a second all day, but for a 2024 third, like whatever. Like sure. Like it's more than fine. He also says that we've reviewed some of his league mates, so nice little shout out there. In terms of the rest of the team, I mean, to me, 107 pick, I mean, your best player available is most likely going to be a wide receiver, assuming that obviously the top 2 at minimum backs are off the board. And again, if Isaiah Spiller gets the draft capital, I'm fine with taking him there. But realistically, you're looking at a Jameson Williams, you're looking at a Chris Olave, you're looking at maybe Sam Howell if he gets first round type of draft capital. Those are the type of players you're looking at. So I'm not just forcing a pick for need. I'm just going to take the best player available, whoever falls there after the NFL draft.
Yeah, and I think overall it is a 10-man league, so you got to keep in mind the rest of his league mates are going to be good. But I mean, just looking at your starting roster, you're going to have Herbert and Russell Wilson as super flex as your starters. Those 2 guys legitimately both have a chance to be the quarterback 1 next year in fantasy. You also have Swift and Gibson with some decent depth at running back, Stevenson and Singletary and stuff. So I think you're okay there. Hopefully you can add maybe a running back in the draft sometime in the 307 or the 107. And then at wide receiver, you have a really loaded core of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Elijah Moore and pretty solid tight ends as well. So I think you're in a good position to compete with this team. I think it's pretty well built, and you have a future as well, with especially the type of trades that you've made so far. I would continue to encourage you to trade in this league, because it looks like you can get away with some good deals from some of your league mates. So keep trading, keep churning your roster, and I think you're going to be in a great spot. So let's move on to Cameron Allison, the next team that we have here. 10-team super flex league. You guys can see the team on the screen there. It is a super flex league. So Fields and Trubisky, a little bit of a shaky quarterback too. He didn't list another quarterback, so I'm assuming he doesn't really have one of note. You have Najee Harris, David Montgomery, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman Jr., Darnell Mooney, Devontae Smith, Gabriel Davis, Freiermuth, Noah Fant as your main like starting pieces. And then you have the 106, 204, 209 this year, 303, 2023 first, 2023 seconds, 4 firsts in 2024, 2 seconds, 4 thirds. So a lot of draft capital in that 2024 class. Lists a bunch of trades here, which I'm guessing he wants us to go over for this video. The first trade that we have here, I think they go in like sequential order, like left to right. The first trade he has here is honestly, we kind of like debated this one, like how do we shake this out? He says he receives DK Henry. I'm assuming this is Derrick Henry based on the trade that he makes after this. I'm assuming this is Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf, the 209, a 2024 first in exchange for the Dynasty wide receiver 1, Jamar Chase, and Damian Harris.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at this, we kind of talked about it offhand. I'd say Damian Harris for me is like about a mid-second. So getting a late second for him, like slight offset there. But I mean, if we're looking at it, obviously, if we can join it with the next trade, DK Henry in a 2024 first is about appropriate value for Jamar Chase. So especially when you consider the value he got for Derrick Henry. So overall, I do think that this is a fair package if you're going to move off of, a locked and load cornerstone piece like Jamar Chase.
Right. And let's talk about the trade that he makes after this with Derrick Henry. He gets the 106 and a 2024 third in exchange for Derrick Henry. Now, I mean, you're in a pretty competitive window, so maybe you don't really want to sell on Derrick Henry and just use him for this year. But there's a very good possibility that if Derrick Henry gets injured again next year, midway through the season, that he has no dynasty value, right? And you're stuck holding the bag like I've kind of talked about in other videos. And the 106 is going to hold a lot more value than what Derrick Henry is just, maybe a year short from now. Obviously, the alternative is that Derrick Henry stays healthy and he helps somebody win a championship. But the 106 is more than enough value for me, plus a 2024 third to move off of Derrick Henry. And I think this trade makes your other trade look a little bit better too. If you just swap out Derrick Henry for the 106, then you're essentially getting DK and 2 1s and a late 2 for Damian Harris and Jamar Chase.
Yep. No, I fully agree with that assessment there. Next deal that he has listed here, he sent away AJ Dillon, KJ Osborne, and a 2023 third in exchange for David Montgomery. And again, if you're in a more of a win now type of window, having the opportunity, the workload that Monty has this year over an AJ Dillon, I do think AJ Dillon long term is probably going to be at least as value, if not potentially a little bit more than Monty. But given the structure, given the format of your team, obviously having a very competitive type of team, I'm fine with making this deal.
Yeah, I actually like the Montgomery side quite a bit more. I'm pretty,
Fair.
relatively bullish on Montgomery long term in Dynasty. I think he's going to get extended by the Bears after the season, and even if maybe you don't want to keep David Montgomery on your roster, he's still going to have a lot of value if he gets that extension to still be that number one back for the Chicago Bears offense. And he could, see a boost in efficiency this year if Justin Fields takes a big step forward. And we all know that David Montgomery is basically a workhorse running back, just not in an elite offense behind an elite offensive line like some of the other top guys, and a guy that's already been a top 5 running back in fantasy, let alone one that you can get for the price of like AJ Dillon types. So I really like that trade for you. This next trade, I mean, is probably a little bit more skewed to the other side in my opinion, but he sends away Kyle Pitts, the undisputed dynasty tight end 1, and DJ Chark, who's a solid like 3rd round type of value piece there, and he gets back Gabriel Davis, Pat Freiermuth, a 2024 first and a 2024 second. Now, I think this is a little too. How much on top of Pat Freiermuth do you need to get off of Kyle Pitts?
At least 2 firsts and a second.
Yeah, like Pitts to me, I like Freiermuth. I think he's a good long-term piece to have, but Pitts is Pitts, man. Like we're talking about a superstar level prospect. We're talking about a guy that had 1,000 yards as a rookie. I know the Atlanta Falcons are kind of in shambles right now, as it currently stands, but I'm still holding on to Pitts. I think he has so much value in long-term, from a long-term view in Dynasty. If Gabriel Davis hits, then this makes this trade look a lot better to me. But we're not, the highest on Gabriel Davis. But if he somehow turns into like the number 2 for Josh Allen, then this trade probably looks a lot better.
Yeah, but I guess, but I don't know. I would need Gabriel Davis to equate to like a 2023 first, mid first probably, and I just don't see any realm of possibility where that ever happens. So, especially too, again, Chark isn't much, but the fact that you also gave up more on top of Pitts for a package I wouldn't have wanted for Pitts alone, I don't know. I mean, the rest of your deals make up for it, but I do think that you lost this one.
Yeah, not by a whole lot though. So the next trade that you have here, I think if you combine this deal with the last deal, then this is
easy,
for me. If you got Najee Harris for, I don't even know who D Williams is, Daryl Williams, Damian Williams, I have no idea, but Najee Harris for the 103 essentially is what this trade equates to. Like, give me Najee Harris. We're not high on Najee Harris by any means, but I would still take Najee Harris over, Breece Hall, who's the 101, let alone the 103, which is where you're looking at more so one of those wide receiver prospects.
I mean, I'd take Breece Hall over Najee Harris, but I mean, aside from that, he would easily be at least the 103, probably the 102 for me in this class. So as a result, I mean, the fact that you got that and partnered with Daryl, Damian, D'Angelo, Ernest, I don't know, whatever you want to call D Williams here. I mean, give me Najee Harris pretty easily there. And the final deal that he has listed here, I mean, this is an absolute foolery. You just absolutely skinned the goat on this one. Mac Jones for Devontae Smith, a 2024 first and a 2023 second. Like, yes, please.
Yeah, I'd rather have Devontae Smith than Mac Jones straight up. So this is a pretty easy trade for me to make.
Again, I'm assuming this is Devontae Smith because it doesn't have anything listed.
Yeah, unless
here,
it's like Traquan Smith or something. But like, the way
even
you have him listed in your team, I'm assuming he's higher value than Gabriel Davis. So it's probably Devontae Smith.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if it was, let's just say it was Traquan Smith, I would rather have a first and a second than Mac Jones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, easy moves there. But overall, any other thoughts on this team, or should we move on to Rom's team?
No, we can move on to Rom's team.
All right, yeah, for sure. So going on to Rom's team, you guys can see the team on the screen here. I'm just going to zoom in so I can get a full quick look here. He's got a quarterback, Russell Wilson and Derek Carr in a 1 quarterback league, 14-team 1 quarterback league. Keep that in mind. Running backs, yeah, Dobbins is your main anchor there. Wide receivers, you got a nice little top three with Debo, Godwin, and Higgins. And then at tight end, you have Irv Smith Jr., along with 4 first-round picks this year. The question that he's looking for advice on what direction he should go in the draft with his roster. And what are our thoughts on taking Malik at the 114? So I'll let you provide your input first, and then I'll give mine as well.
Okay, I tripped out for a second. I guess it's a 1 quarterback league, but
Yeah.
I was gonna be like Malik at the 114, super flex in a 14 teamer would be a steal. But yeah, Malik at the 114. I don't think it's a necessity to add a young
Agreed.
quarterback to this team. I think you should be okay with the 2 that you have. But if he's the best player available, and all you're deciding between like Malik Willis and 3rd round draft capital prospect wide receivers, I'm okay with going with Malik Willis in that situation. I don't think that's a outrageous kind of move. But what I'm looking to do, it's kind of a generic advice for all people in dynasty rookie drafts, is really just soak up the value wherever you can get it. At 106, hopefully you can get one of those top 3 receivers to fall to you. If people are running back hungry, maybe they go up and grab Kenneth Walker. Maybe they're lower on, Garrett Wilson or Drake London, and like Jameson Williams pops up ahead of them in the rookie draft. Hopefully you can get a stud wide receiver prospect with both the 106 and the 108, probably in the realm of, Olave, Jahan Dotson, Jameson Williams is the most, doomsday outcome in that scenario. I'd also be looking at Isaiah Spiller, depending on his draft capital in this team, because you don't really have, another running back outside of J.K. Dobbins. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the one thing with that, he actually does list here that he expects the top 3 to 4 running backs to be gone by the 106. So this is clearly, an established the run.
Who's the 4th running back in that equation?
I don't know. Are we talking about Rachaad White? Are we talking about, maybe
Brian
somebody
Robinson?
Maybe somebody didn't see Kyron Williams' combine.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if Rachaad White goes in like the 3rd round or something like that, and he somehow is hopping people in the 106 area, like that's just ludicrous. Like if you told me right now Rachaad White went at the top of the 3rd round of the NFL draft, I still probably would barely spend a 1st round pick on the guy. Like he'd be like the one in a 14 team league. He'd be like the 113.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. So overall, the fact is like you should have an elite wide receiver. Maybe potentially, I don't want to, count my eggs before they hatch, but maybe you get, a London, a Wilson, or a Burks type at the 106. Given the fact that, if 3 running backs go in the first 3 picks, let's just say hypothetically, like you have a chance. Somebody messes up, somebody makes one bad pick, and you're instantly locked into a tier 1 type of wide receiver this year.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully you can walk out of this draft with, a couple of those top wide receiver prospects at 111. Again, you're still probably looking at a wide receiver type of prospect. Hopefully a guy like Jahan Dotson makes it to there. Maybe if, some of these other guys, if you're a big George Pickens guy, if you're big on Sky Moore or somebody like that, it sounds like those guys are in for pretty high draft capital as well. 111, 114. Unfortunately, your team is just going to be built on wide receivers just based on the strength of this draft. Good. And apparently your league mates are just going to overvalue the running backs in this draft. So if you want to build the pseudo hero RB for next year and just have J.K. Dobbins as your dude, fill him out with, a trade closer to the season where you can get like a cheap running back too for your team and just ride with Debo, Godwin, T. Higgins, Drake London, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, and David Bell or something like that at wide receiver, then you can definitely work some magic with this team. Maybe you want to go with in a tight end premium. If you want to go with
Trey McBride at the 208.
McBride at the 208 makes some sense.
Perfect sense. Yeah, no, Trey McBride tested well at his pro day, is kind of the consensus tight end one for the most part in most NFL media circles. And if he gets, let's just say mid day 2 type of draft capital, maybe he's, a Cole Kmet type of draft capital or an early 3rd round pick type of draft capital, like I'd be more than comfortable with taking him at that 208 spot. So overall, well-constructed team, just for the most part, based off the assessment that you gave, just keep smashing that wide receiver spot. And again, as Corey said, run that little pseudo hero RB, if you will. But either way, we can head off of Rom's team. We can go into the next team. That's going to be from Bronco Updates. And you guys can see 10-team full PPR 1 quarterback league. At quarterback, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, and Zach Wilson. Running back headed by, a 3-stack of Swift, Williams, and Chubb. Wide receiver, Chase, Cooper, St. Brown, Claypool, etc. And then at tight end with Dallas Goedert.
A lot of Dallas Goedert in today's video.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I might have to put him on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But in addition to this, he also has 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, along with basically his first and second in 2023 and all of his 2024 picks. So overall, I mean, this is a very, very good team. And he lists a couple trades here. So we'll go through the trades and then maybe analyze the team to see what other deals he could potentially do. But in terms of the trades he made, one quarterback league, I absolutely love Kyler Murray. I think he's a locked and loaded top 4, top 5 type of quarterback. But the fact that you're also able to get, a fringe top 10 quarterback in Russell Wilson, along with the 2023 second in a one quarterback league, I actually do like the side that you received here, getting that extra capital, adding another dart throw at, receiver or running back with a slight downgrade at quarterback from Kyler to Russell Wilson.
I think I disagree on this trade.
Really, eh?
Just because, I mean, you already have a lot of draft capital.
That's fair.
And your team is ready to compete, and usually to win championships, you need studs. Now, it's not like Russell Wilson isn't a stud. He's obviously very good in his own right, but Kyler Murray, what he can represent at his ceiling is going to be better than what Russell Wilson can represent. Unless Russell Wilson comes out and throws 57 touchdowns this year, which is very unlikely to happen, Kyler Murray can have, a very good rushing season and be, the quarterback won by 4 points per game this year. That is his ceiling, right? He can have a 26 point per game, 27 point per game type of output on any given season. So I probably would have stuck with Kyler Murray, the stud quarterback. In a 10-team league, you usually want those positional advantages. And I think Kyler Murray is more so of a positional advantage than the package you gave up. But I don't think, if this was super flex, obviously this isn't a close trade.
Yeah, no brainer.
In a one quarterback league, I still would have probably leaned with Kyler Murray just for that positional advantage.
So, there's a little disagreement for the comment section, so they can't roast us for always agreeing. We can move on. We can move on to the next deal here. You're able to flip Michael Pittman for ARSB and Matt Stafford. I mean, sorry, guys, we're going to have to agree on this one, but this is a no-brainer for us. I have ARSB ranked higher than Michael Pittman, and you got ARSB plus for Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I think they're within the same tier at the very minimum.
Sure.
And even if you're just like the most staunch, like anti-Amon-Ra St. Brown hater, like, the difference between those two guys in value then is probably like Pittman and St. Brown in a second for Pittman at that point, and Stafford is probably worth a second round pick in a one quarterback format. So I definitely would take the Amon-Ra St. Brown side there.
For sure. The next deal he made, he ended up sending DJ Moore, Tim Patrick, and Josh Palmer in exchange for Sutton, Claypool, and the 210. I'm going to be honest. I want DJ Moore here.
Yeah, I mean, you got the stack, I guess. Well, I mean, you don't have the stack anymore because he did trade away him in the next trade. But to acquire the Cortland Sutton, Russell Wilson stack, I guess I can kind of understand the logic there. Chase Claypool is, definitely worth more than those other two pieces combined by himself. And the 210 I'd probably rather have than Tim Patrick and Josh Palmer combined.
For sure.
But I mean, overall, I don't think this is a crazy, like a terrible.
It's definitely not.
Like
no,
that. It's definitely a fairly close trade. Cortland Sutton and Chase Claypool, you get two birds, one stone kind of thing for DJ Moore. DJ Moore is the better asset than those two guys, but could those guys develop and at their ceilings be better than DJ Moore, like individually? For sure. But I do think I would take the security of the 160 target receiver who's 25 years old and DJ Moore.
Yeah, especially once he gets a quarterback upgrade this offseason.
If he gets a quarterback upgrade, they're still talking about starting fucking Sam Darnold this year.
That's the most fugazi headline I've ever seen. I mean,
I'm going to be really upset if Kenny Pickett is the pick at 6 for the Carolina Panthers.
The pick is Pickett?
Yeah, I really would not like that.
Either way, we can get on to this final deal too. And I mean, this is a no-brainer. Like, I do like Sutton. I think, for a win now team, that type of wide receiver, he is a top 30-ish, 35-ish type of dynasty receiver. But I mean, come on, this is a no-brainer. 2023 firsts are an absolute goldmine. And he even says projected early. Even if this wasn't projected early, even this was, a prototypical mid to late 2023 first, I would have been like, you know what, like this is probably a fair deal. You're getting a gold mine type of pick, a gold mine type of appreciating asset in that first. But the fact that, again, projected early, when I hear that, I'm thinking Bijan, I'm thinking JSN, I'm thinking Jahmyr Gibbs, Zach Evans, I'm thinking of Kayshon Boutte, Jordan Addison. Like, there's so many names just off your
Sean
head
Tucker, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Like,
I guess it's a one quarterback.
One quarterback,
quarterback's not as much, but Sean Tucker, you didn't even mention him. You still got other, like you said, Jordan Addison and some of the other Kayshon Boutte if he's able to stay healthy. Like, the projected early pick in the 2023 class is definitely very, very valuable.
Very fun.
So I agree with you on that one. Overall, this team, it doesn't look like you need much help, to be honest. You're in a great spot at those draft picks. You just spend them on best player available. Probably going to add a stud wide receiver to this group, and maybe Kenneth Walker or something at 105. And at 110, you could probably add another wide receiver to this group. So I think overall, you're in a really, really good spot.
Yep, for sure. So we can move on to the next team. That's going to be from Adam. Do you have here if it's a one quarterback or if it's a super flex league?
He didn't actually tell me. I asked him what it was overall. He didn't actually get back to me. So let's just assume this is a super flex league because he does
Okay.
say that it was like a full rebuild type of team. I'll actually let you go through it and I'll see if I can find it in the DMs right now.
For sure. So the only thing he really says here is he embraced a full rebound rebuild. Should I make any more moves or hold off? So overall, I mean, you guys can see the team kind of headlined by Trey Lance, Javonte Williams, Jerry Judy, and Cole Kmet with what doesn't look like much else on the roster, but he does have a 103, 101 this year, 103 this year, 3 first, and 220 for 24 first. So overall, when looking at this team and looking at the draft capital, what are your thoughts on his full rebuild?
Yeah, it is a one quarterback league. So
Okay.
he does Trey Lance is all you really need in a one quarterback league. Mills and Wentz for sure, just fine to have as additional pieces. Obviously, you're not in like the greatest position because I believe he just
No,
drafted this team or he just like did a startup and this is kind of what it ended up being. But you do have, some very, very high draft capital. I'm
for
assuming like
sure.
traded down during the startup, get 3 firsts in 2023, 2 firsts in 2024. Having the 101 to add to this roster will definitely go a long way if you want to spend that on Bryce Hall. Definitely no brainer there. If you wanted to shop that 101 too, see if you can acquire more 2023 capital or somebody's willing to overpay for Bryce Hall because they see him like if Bryce Hall goes to like Buffalo or something and somebody's willing to give you, Elijah Moore, a 2023 first and like a young running back on top of that, like by all means,
Yeah.
sell the farm, take the package for Bryce Hall. But nonetheless, 101, go with Bryce Hall here. And then 103, just grab your best receiver available. If you love Garrett Wilson, grab Garrett Wilson. If you love Drake London, grab Drake London. If you love Treylon Burks, grab Treylon Burks. I think that's probably the position and the way that I would embrace this full rebuild. Just grab the best player available in your rookie drafts and get prepared to spend those other picks in the future.
Yep, and get prepared to be fluid and functional when on the clock because there's some work to do here, in my opinion. There's some work. Again, 101, Brees Hall, if somebody's willing to send you the farm, Elijah Moore first and a young piece, you go do that. 103, if somebody is all in on, Drake London, Treylon Burks, whatever receivers there, and you can get, 2 future firsts for that pick, you go ahead and do it. Like those are the type of moves I'm going to be trying to make with this team because you don't need players right now. You need assets. You need appreciation. And you already did a good job acquiring 3 2023 first and 2 2024 first. Keep going and keep adding and adding and adding as much draft capital as you possibly can.
Yeah, exactly. The goal of this rebuild is to be aligning your running backs primes with the strength of your team. So if you by 2023, after the 2023 draft, you have Javonte Williams, Bryce Hall, and Jahmyr Gibbs as your running backs, and at wide receiver you have Jerry Judy, JSN, and Jordan Addison at wide receiver, and then you have Cole Kmet and Alberto. One of those guys, let's say, develops into a solid tight end. Then you might even be in a position to compete as soon as then. And Trey Lance should be, by
Yeah.
all means, a stud quarterback by that point in time as well.
And the other move I'm doing, I know it sounds counterintuitive because, again, he is a very young piece, but man, given the status of this team, given your expected competing window, I am gauging interest on Javonte Williams. I understand you just drafted him in your supplemental or in your startup draft, and he was probably one of your early picks. But again, if somebody's willing to give you, I wouldn't be shocked in a one quarterback league if somebody's willing to give you 3 firsts for that pick straight up or for that player straight up.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me. If somebody's willing to
Yeah,
give you like 102, a 2023 first, and their 2024 first to secure a stud young running back to help them compete, then
yeah,
yeah, by all means, see what you can get for Javonte Williams and Jerry Judy for that matter too, because he's
yeah.
going to be 26, 27 by the time you're ready to compete as well. So I think overall not the greatest position to be in, but I think there's definitely room for optimism. A lot of assets going forward, and a lot of work still to be done. So moving on to the final team, final trades of the video, we have Johnny Tightlips. 2 quarterback league. His team, got some guys like Watson, Mahomes, Tua, Tannehill, CMC, Barkley, Chase Edmonds, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, and OBJ. What he does in these trades basically is it looks like he's trying to tear it down. It looks like he's trying to get off of some of his older pieces and collect some draft capital, maybe rebuild in the future. So he trades away Devontae Adams and Ryan Tannehill in exchange for a 2023 first, a 2024 first, and a 2023 second. So what are your thoughts on that trade? I think my thoughts personally, it's just pretty much an even trade to me.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I mean, Ryan Tannehill and Devontae, especially in the context of your team, you are trying to tear it down. You are trying to, replenish your youth. reestablish, retool this team. So moving off of, a 29-year-old wide receiver and a 33, 34-year-old quarterback to get, highly coveted draft capital. Like, again, we already know how good this 2023 class is expected, but and don't sniff at the 2024 class. If your league allows you to trade for 2024 picks, go ahead and do it. Because some of the names at the top of that draft class, you're looking at guys like, Caleb Williams. You're looking at guys like Travion Henderson, Donovan Edwards, JJ McCarthy. Like, there's a ton
Hook 'em
of
horns,
names.
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers, yeah. I mean, that's another one. I mean, like Xavier Worthy, another
Xavier
hook 'em
Worthy
horns.
too, yeah.
Like this is already,
Texas is
a
back,
bunch
baby.
a bunch of true freshmen that showed out in their first year in college football. Again, a lot can happen between now and then, but again, whatever can happen from a depreciating standpoint, we also have, again, as we mentioned, the Zach Wilsons of the world, the Trey Lances of the world, the guys that will hop up and will develop and will break out by their second year, third year in college that we aren't even taking into account. The class already looks strong right now. Just imagine when we have those emerging names.
Yeah, I definitely do not disagree with that take there. Let's go on to trade number 2. Another, similar trade. He takes Cooper Kupp, takes Saquon Barkley, two guys that obviously have a lot of high dynasty value that are, I would say older prospects or older players, considering Saquon plays running back. So he's like 24, 25 years old with some volume under his belt. We get 2 firsts, 2023 and 2024. You get 2 seconds in both of those draft classes, and you get the 112 for this package. Now, Cooper Kupp's got a lot of value right now. So how do you break this trade down? What's like the trade-off?
So we'll just say 2 of those ones, whether you want to do 112 in the 2024 first, 112 in the 2023 first, or the 2 future first, let's just say hypothetically are equal to Cooper Kupp. And then I would also have that other first and the 2 seconds being about equal to Saquon. Again, this is a fair deal. Like if the person wants, win now type of piece, I think getting Kupp and Saquon is beneficial to them. However, in your position, shedding your team of age, shedding your team of risk, shedding your team of depreciation, getting 3 1s and 2 2s for these pieces is a phenomenal way to, increase the longevity and increase the establishment of youth in your dynasty roster. So I really like this deal in both ways.
Yeah. I think you did a good job of tearing it down. I think you did a good job of getting some great value for the high end assets that you have. And you still have work to do. You still have CMC. You still have, if you wanted to shop some of your quarterbacks, you still have AJ Brown if you wanted to shop somebody like him. So probably a lot of draft capital in your future, Johnny Tightlip. So good job there, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Like the video if you guys enjoyed. Comment any of your thoughts down below. Comment, that you just liked the video. Anything helps us in the YouTube algorithm, as always. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. 65, 70% of you, we can see the numbers. Don't subscribe to the channel, even though you're watching the videos. It doesn't cost you anything. It really, really helps us out. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers in or around the NFL draft. If you guys are curious about our dynasty rankings, we made reference to them throughout this video. You can get them via Patreon, which will also get you priority to these dynasty decisions episodes, or you can get our dynasty rankings by depositing on Underdog Fantasy using promo code FSE at signup and first deposit. You'll get 100% match back on whatever you put in. So if you put in 50, you'll have 100 on the site to play with. We no longer can play on Underdog Fantasy because we live in stupid Ontario and it just got taken away from us. But Underdog Fantasy, nonetheless, you guys can play on it if you don't live in Ontario, presumably. Most states are able to, and you'll get our dynasty rankings for free, and you'll get a bonus on whatever you deposit using our promo code FSE, like I mentioned.
Yep, for sure. Full match back up to $100. So make sure you go take advantage of that. A lot of opportunity and a lot of resources that are easily available by using promo code FSC at checkout. But yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, comment down below, as Corey said. Peace out. We'll talk to you soon.